Treasure Island, Chapter 8. At the Sign of the Spyglass. When I had done breakfasting, the squire gave me a note addressed to John Silver, at the Sign of the Spyglass, and told me I should easily find the place by following the line of docks and keeping a bright lookout for a little tavern with a brass telescope for a sign. I set off, overjoyed at this opportunity to see some more of the ships and seamen, and picked my way along the great crowd of people in carts and bales, for the dock was now at its busiest, until I found the tavern in question. It was a bright enough little place of entertainment. The sign was newly painted, the windows had neat red curtains, the floor was cleanly sanded. There was a street on each side and an open door on both, which made the large, low room pretty clear to see in spite of the clouds of tobacco smoke. The customers were mostly seafaring men, and they talked so loudly that I hung at the door, almost afraid to enter. As I was waiting, a man came out of a side room, and at a glance I was sure he must be Long John. His left leg was cut off close by the hip, and under the left shoulder he carried a crutch, which he managed with wonderful dexterity, hopping upon it like a bird. He was very tall and strong, with a face as big as a ham, plain and pale, but intelligent and smiling. Indeed, he seemed the most cheerful of spirits, whistling as he moved about among the tables, with a merry word or a slap on the shoulder for the more favored of his guests. Now, to tell you the truth, from the very first mention of Long John in Squire Trelawney's letter, I had taken a fear in my mind that he might prove to be the very one-legged sailor whom I had watched for so long at the old Benbow. But one look at the old man before me was enough. I had seen the captain and Black Dog and the blind man Pew, and I thought I knew what a buccaneer was like. A very different creature, according to me, from this clean and pleasant-tempered landlord. I plucked up courage at once, crossed the threshold, and walked right up to the man where he stood, propped on his crutch, talking to a customer. "Mr. Silver, sir?" I asked, holding out the note. "Yes, my lad," said he. "Such is my name, to be sure, and who may you be?" And then he saw the squire's letter. He seemed to give me something of almost like a start. "Oh," said he, quite loud, offering his hand, "I see you're our new cabin boy. Pleased I am to see you." And he took my hand in his large, firm grasp. Just then one of the customers at the far side rose suddenly and made for the door. It was close by him, and he was out in the street in a moment. But his hurry had attracted my notice, and I recognized him at a glance. It was a tallow-faced man wanting 2 fingers, who'd come first to the Admiral Benbow. "Oh," I cried, "stop him, it's Black Dog." "I don't care 2 coppers who he is," cried Silver, "but he hasn't paid his score. Harry, run and catch him." One of the others, who was nearest the door, leaped up and started in pursuit. "If he were Admiral Hawke, he should pay his score," cried Silver, and then, relinquishing my hand, Who did you say he was?" he asked. "Black what? Dog, sir," said I. "Mr. Trelawney has not told you of the buccaneers? He was one of them." "So," cried Silver, "in my house? Ben, run and help Harry. One of those swabs, was he? Was he drinking with him, Morgan? Step up here." The man, whom he called Morgan, an old gray-haired, mahogany-faced sailor, came forward pretty sheepishly, rolling his quid. "Now, Morgan," said Long John very sternly, "you never clapped your eyes on that Black Dog before, did you now?" "Not I, sir," said Morgan with a salute. "You didn't know his name, did you?" "No, sir." "By the powers, Tom Morgan, it's good for you," exclaimed the landlord. "If you'd been mixed up with the like of that, you never would have put foot in my house. You may lay to that. And what was he saying to you?" "I don't rightly know, sir," answered Morgan. "Do you call that head on your shoulder a blessed dead-eye?" cried Long John. "Don't rightly know, don't you? Perhaps you don't happen to rightly know who you're speaking to, perhaps." "Come now, was he John? Voyages, captains, ships? Pipe up, what was it?" "We was talking keel-hauling," answered Morgan. "Keel-hauling, was you? What a mighty suitable thing, too, and you may lay to that. Get back to your place for a lubber, Tom." And then, as Morgan rolled back to his seat, Silver added to me in a confidential whisper that was very flattering, as I thought, "He's quite the honest man, Tom Morgan, only stupid. And now," he ran on again aloud, "let's see, Black Dog. No, I don't know that name, not I. Yet I kind of think I've seen the swab. He used to come here with the blind beggar he used." "That he did, you may be sure," said I. "I knew that blind man, too. His name was Pew." "It was," cried Silver, now quite excited. "Pew! That was the name for sure. And he looked a shark, he did. If we run down this black dog now, there'll be news for Captain Trelawney. Ben's a good runner. Few seamen run better than Ben. He should have run him down hand over hand by the powers. He talked to Keelhauling, did he? I'll keelhaul him. All of the time he was jerking out these phrases, he was stumping up and down the tavern on his crutch, slapping tables with his hand and giving such a show of excitement as would have convinced an Old Bailey judge or Bow Street runner. My suspicions had been thoroughly reawakened on finding Black Dog at the spyglass, and I watched the cook narrowly, but he was too deep and too ready and too clever for me. And by the time the two men had come back out of breath and confessed that they had lost track in the crowd and been scolded like thieves, I would have gone bail for the innocence of Long John Silver. See here now, Hawkins said he, here's a blessed hard thing on a man like me, now ain't it? There's Captain Trelawney, what's he to think? Here I have this confounded son of a Dutchman sitting in my own house, drinking my own rum. Here you comes and tells me of it plain, and here I let him give us all the slip before my blessed deadlights. Now, Hawkins, you do me justice with the captain. You're a lad, aren't you? But you're smart as paint. I see what you first come in. Now here it is. What could I do, this old timber I hobble on? When I was an A.B. master mariner, I'd have come up alongside him hand over hand and broached him in a brace of old shakes, I would. But now, and then all of a sudden he stopped. His jaw dropped as though he remembered something. The score! He bust out. 3 goes of rum! Why, shiver my timbers if I hadn't forgotten my score! And falling down on the bench, he laughed till tears ran down his cheek. I could not help joining, and we laughed together, peal after peal, until the tavern rang along. What a precious old sea calf I am, he said at last, wiping his cheeks. You and me should get on well, Hawkins, for we'll take my Davy. I shall be rated ship's boy. But come now, stand by, go to about. This won't do. Duty is duty, messmates. I'll put on my old cockerel hat and step along of you to Captain Trelawney and report this here affair. For mind you, it's serious, young Hawkins, and neither you nor me's going to come out of it with what I should make so bold as to call credit. Neither shall you, not smart, but none of your pair of us are smart. But dash my buttons, that is a good un about my score. And he began to laugh again, and that so heartily, that though I did not see the joke as he did, I was obliged to join him in his mirth. On our little walk along the quays, he made himself the most interesting companion, telling me about the different ships that we passed by, their rig, tonnage, and nationality, explaining the work that was going forward, how one was discharging, another taking on cargo, and a third making ready for sea, and every now and then telling me some little anecdote of the ships or seamen's, or repeating a nautical phrase till I had learned it perfectly. I began to see that here was one of the best of possible shipmates. When we got to the inn, the squire and Dr. LaVale were sitting together, finishing a quart of ale with toast in it, before they should go aboard the schooner on a visit of inspection. Long John told the story from first to last with a great deal of spirit and the most perfect truth. That was how it were now, weren't it, Hawkins? He would say now and again, and I could always bear him out entirely. The two gentlemen agreed that Black Dog had got away, but we all agreed there was nothing to be done. And after he had been complimented, Long John took up his crutch and departed. All hands aboard by 4 this afternoon, shouted the squire after him. Aye, aye, sir, cried the cook in the passage. Well, squire, said Dr. LaVale, I don't put much faith in your discoveries as a general thing. But I will say this, John Silver suits me. The man's a perfect trump, declared the squire. And now, added the doctor, Jim may come on aboard with us, may he not? To be sure, says the squire. Take your hat, Hawkins, we'll see the ship. This is the end of chapter 8. Now, I told you before about the restaurant that was named Long John Silver's, the whole chain of restaurants named Long John Silver's after the pirate, or character in the book. He's not established to be a pirate yet. Anyway, named Long John Silver's after the captain in the book, after the cook in the book. Anyway, whenever we would go down to visit Pa and Mimu, there was a way that we would always go because it was just kind of the easiest way. We'd go up 270, across on Interstate 68, and then down 81. And there were certain places that we would always stop because they were just convenient to stop, it was a good place, needed gas, etc., etc., etc. And White's Truck Stop that I mentioned in another video on another thread is one of the places that we always stopped, and that was just awesome. And my mom was like, if you're good, we'll stop at White's for ice cream. So we'd stop at White's for ice cream. But before that, one of the first stops that we made was about an hour and a half away from home, and we'd stop there and grab dinner. And that was a town called LaVale, which is just past Cumberland in Maryland. Now, Maryland, the western part of Maryland, is very skinny. There's one part that's only 5 miles wide. So many years ago, I was driving. Your father was sitting in the back seat. And I told him, look out the left side of the car. He looked out the left side of the car. That's West Virginia. He's like, okay. I said, now look out the right side of the car. And he looked out the right side of the car. I said, that's Pennsylvania. And right now, you're in Maryland. And that, just kind of blew his mind that, you're driving on this road and there were 2 states. You were driving along and looking at 3 states all at once because they're just like there, and Maryland was that skinny. But anyway, just past Cumberland is a little town called LaVale. And LaVale has a whole bunch of little fast food places, which is why we stopped there. But it had Long John Silver's, which was just my favorite as a kid because we got it so rarely. And fried fish and fried shrimp and clams, and I love their clams. They're so good breaded and just delicious. But and hush puppies are just like magic. They're little balls of corn veal, just deep fried, and they're just tasty and delicious. But anyway, we'd stop there and we'd get food and we'd drive on. Now, another thing about this book, about this chapter, is you have John Silver, and he's friendly and he's happy with people. And Hawkins doesn't trust him to begin with, which, makes sense because one-legged sailor. Hawkins had been watching out for a one-legged sailor. He just seems so convenient, Squire Trelawney says, yes, we're off in search of treasure, and all of a sudden he appears. So, there's all of that, and Hawkins like, I didn't trust him at first, but he was so friendly and ready and smart. And let me tell you a little trick about life. If you are happy, if you are friendly, people will find it hard to be angry at you, and it will be really easy to make friends. So if you are joyful, if you beam out that joy, if you just are happy, people will like you. And even if they're angry at you, if you approach it as, if you approach it in a happy manner, if you don't get angry back at them, because that's one of the things that happens is someone gets angry and someone else gets angry, they start butting heads, and they each get angrier and angrier and angrier. But if someone's angry and someone's like, hi, that it just sort of disarms them. And just a little bit of happiness, a little bit of friendliness. This goes along a lot with what I said before about assuming the best about people. Because, if they go into it assuming the worst about you and you assume the best about them, and, you don't start hitting them where they know it hurts, then they just people open up. It's this really weird sort of Jedi mind trick control over other people. I know that sounds hideous to do, but I mean, if you use it for good, you use it for good. So be a happy, friendly person. And so sometimes, be a happy, friendly person, and we will see what happens in the next chapter.